Erev Tov, everyone. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States. For those of us who remembered to turn our clocks ahead, it is, it is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars. Therefore, it must be the Old Rabbis Discuss with Rabbi A Squared, Rabbi Aryel, and Rabbi Ancel. And without further ado, let's bring on Rabbi Ancel here. Let me turn his mic on. And if I can find it here. Let's see. It's one of these. I know it's one of these. There it is. Aryel and Rabbi Ancel. There you are. Without further ado, let's bring on Rabbi Ancel here. Let me turn his mic on. I got some coming from somewhere. Find it here. Where am I? Let's see. There it is. Okay. So now we got that straightened out. You're on.
We on?
We are on.
Shalom and good evening, everybody. This evening, we are going to be discussing the history of anti-Semitism. And before we start this, I am a prime example, having gone through my first 14 years of my life living in the communist country of Romania, suffering both physical and mental abuse from the hands of the Christian people in Romania. At that time, the prime minister or the president was Dej, and the very well-known Antonescu, the Nazi lover, that sent my parents away to Auschwitz. Anti-Semitism, you can define that as there are hostile actions or discrimination against Jews as a religious or ethnic group. But this anti-Semitism goes back many, many centuries. It is called the longest hatred that was, is, and will always be, because that's the way it is. But we can break it down into 5 groups. The pre-Christian anti-Judaism that was prevalent in the ancient Greece and Rome, but it was primarily ethnic in nature. The second would be the Christian anti-Semitism in antiquity and the Middle Ages, which was religious in nature and has extended into our modern times. The third class would be Muslim anti-Semitism, which was, at least in its classical form, nuanced, and that the Jews were a protected class. The fourth class would be political, social, and economic anti-Semitism during the Enlightenment and post-Enlightenment Europe, which laid the groundwork for racial anti-Semitism. And fifth was the racial anti-Semitism that arose in the 19th century and culminated in Nazism. In today's world is the contemporary anti-Semitism, which has been labeled by some as the new anti-Semitism. All these you can basically break down into 3 classes. primarily ethnic in nature or religious in nature. In practice, it is difficult to differentiate between anti-Semitism from the general ill treatment of nations by other nations before the Roman period, but since the adoption of Christianity in Europe, anti-Semitism has undoubtedly been present. The Slavic world has also historically seen the Jews as being outsiders. The coming of the scientific and industrial revolution of the 19th century Europe bred a new manifestation of anti-Semitism, which was based as much upon race as upon religion, which culminated in the Holocaust that occurred during World War II. It was the formation of the State of Israel in 1948 that caused a new anti-Semitic tension in the Middle East. Any comments?
Not yet. Let's see who we got in the chat room. We have R.A. Nashon, Regina. Regina is the president of the temple, who has been the president of the temple since we started this thing 14, 16 years ago. And she still hangs around with us. Richard D is with us, Simon is with us, and Khalid is with us. So,
actually, the first clear examples of anti-Jewish sentiment can be traced back to Alexandria in the 3rd century BCE. Alexandrian Jewry were the largest Jewish community in the world, and the largest Jewish community that was Sephardic. Comments?
no, not really.
In Alexandria, the famous Jewish philosopher Philo described an attack on the Jews in Alexandria in 38 CE, in which thousands of Jews died. The violence in Alexandria may have been caused by the Jews being portrayed as misanthropic. Terry Colbert argues that the reason for hatred of Jews in the Hellenistic period was their separateness in the Greek cities of Polies. Also, the famous Bohak argued, however, that early animosity against the Jews cannot be regarded as being anti-Judaic or anti-Semitic unless it arose from attitudes that were held against Jews alone, and that many Greeks showed animosity towards any group they regarded as barbarians. Statements exhibiting prejudice against Jews and their religion can be found in the works of many pagan Greek and Roman writers. Edward Flannery writes that it was the Jews' refusal to accept Greek religious and social standards that marked them out. There's a recorded instance of ancient Greek ruler Antiochus desecrating the temple in Jerusalem and banning the Jewish religious practices such as circumcision, Shabbat observance, and the study of Jewish religion books during the period when ancient Greece dominated the Eastern Mediterranean. Statements exhibiting prejudice toward Jews and their religion can be also found in the works of a few pagan Greek and Roman writers, but the earliest occurrence of anti-Semitism has been the subject of debate among the scholars, largely because different writers use different definitions of anti-Semitism. The terms religious anti-Semitism and anti-Judaism are sometimes used to refer to the animosity towards Judaism as a religion, rather than to Jews defined as an ethnic or racial group. I don't know if it makes a difference.
Yeah, really, yeah. Well, I guess it. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's That's one of the things during the Holocaust that you know, people who actually were actually brought up Christian and stuff like that, and you know, had Jewish grandparents, great grandparents, and stuff like that, and they're going, "Why are we being persecuted? We're not Jewish."
Yeah, well, I know even my next door neighbor that he's Jewish, but he was born in Russia. He doesn't carry a Jewish name.
Yeah,
He is 66 years old, and he never was circumcised. So yeah, a lot of people change their name just to save their lives.
yeah.
Anyways,
The
the relations between the Jews and Judea and the occupying of of the Roman Empire were antagonistic from the very start and resulted in several rebellions. It
mm-hmm.
has been argued that European anti-Semitism has its roots in Roman policy. Several ancient historians record that in 19 CE, the Roman Emperor Tiberius expelled Jews from Rome. According to the Roman historian Suetonius, Tiberius tried to suppress all foreign religion. In the case of Jews, he sent young Jewish men under the presence of military service to provinces noted for their unhealthy climate. He dismissed all other Jews from the city under the threat of life, slavery, or non-compliance. Josephus, in his Jewish antiquities, confirms that Tiberius ordered all the Jews to be banished from Rome. 4,000 were sent to Sardinia, but more who were unwilling to become soldiers were punished. Cassius Dio reports that Tiberius banished most of the Jews who had been attempting to convert the Romans to their religion were also killed.
Yeah.
Philo of Alexandria reported that Sejanus, one of Tiberius' lieutenants, may have been a prime mover in the persecution of the Jews. Anybody have questions? No questions?
No questions. So, did you mention Flavius Josephus?
I said yes.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I read the Jewish Wars by Josephus, and
He wrote the Jewish antiquities.
yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. There's
The
a
Romans refused to permit Jews to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem after its destruction by Titus in 70 CE. He imposed tax on the Jews, which was called Fiscus Judaicus. At the same time, he forbid the finance of the temple. He took money to finance the temple of Jupiter in Rome and renamed Judea as Syria Palestina.
mm,
The Jerusalem Talmud relates that following Bar Kokhba's revolt between 132 and 136 CE, the Romans destroyed very many Jews, killing until their horses were submerged in blood to their nostrils. However, some historians argue that Rome brutally suppressed revolts in all its conquered territories at a point where Tiberius expelled all foreign religions in Rome, not just the Jews. It was good. Tiberius sounds very famous.
now
So,
Tiberius was the grandfather of Claudius, right?
yes,
So you had well, actually, you had Tiberius, you had Caligula, and then you had
Caligula.
Claudius.
Yeah, Caligula was a bad one too.
Yeah, yeah.
Some accommodation, in fact, was later made with Judaism, and that Jews of the diaspora had privilege that others did not, unlike other subjects of the Roman Empire. They had the right to maintain their religion and were not expected to accommodate themselves to local customs. Even after the First Jewish-Roman War, the Roman authorities refused to rescind Jewish privileges in some cities. Now, though Hadrian outlawed circumcision as a mutilation normally visited on people unable to consent, he later exempted the Jews. According to the 18th century historian Edward Gibbon, there was greater tolerance from about 100 CE and 355 and 363 CE, which gave permission and it was granted by Julian the Apostate to rebuild the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Although the majority of the New Testament was written ostensibly by Jews who became followers of Jesus, there was a number of passages in the New Testament, and some see it as anti-Semitic, that have been used for anti-Semitic purposes, including, I read the New Testament. The New Testament was written by men. It was not given by God. Don't agree with it. There's only one section on the New Testament that I can agree with, which is Corinthians, which has nothing to do with religion. Corinthians talks about love.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, some of that New Testament wasn't written until like 140 years later.
Well, the same thing, they say that most of Jesus' followers and Jesus, they were Christians. Christianity didn't come until 300 years later. So
That's true. It wasn't until actually there was a big war among the Christians between those that were actually keeping the Sabbath as their holy day and those that were actually moving it to Sunday. And it wasn't until what, the Council of Nicaea
yeah.
in what, 600 and something, that actually got Constantine actually settled it.
But listen, the followers of Jesus, Jesus, was speaking to a group of Pharisees, and he said, I know that you are descendants of Abraham. You seek to kill me because my word finds no place in you. You are your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he has nothing to do with the truth because there's no truth in him. That is true.
It's true what?
It's true. What he was saying doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
First of all, in Judaism, we have one commandment that says, "Thou shalt not kill or murder." Secondly of all, why was he actually killed? There are so many different discussions of why he was killed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we look at the historical record of people that were doing the same kinds of things, I mean, we can't even actually prove he lived, but other people who are doing kind of similar things, they were a threat to the Roman authority, and
Exactly.
they were basically they were killed because of it. I mean, it's the same thing that Spartacus.
Yeah.
He became a threat to Rome, so they crucified him.
So most people don't know that that was the way Romans executed people.
Oh yeah, because
They
it was
crucified
the
them.
most horrible way to do it.
Yeah,
It,
they
it was
crucified
fear.
people.
It was fear. It was because people knew that it took a long time to die, and the person suffered tremendously. Therefore, it was a what do you call it? It was a an example to keep people from thinking twice before they did something like that. I can't think of what the term is right now.
That's all.
But yeah, I mean, it was a horrible way to die.
And believe it or not, it took days. I mean,
Yes,
a person can go without food, I guess, for a week, without
actually,
water, 3 or 4 days.
yeah,
That's real punishment.
yeah, and plus the way that they crucified him, it was constantly putting stress on their lungs and their heart, and they would basically put people up there so that they could actually lift themselves and get the pressure off of their arms and thus get the pressure off their chest, and basically it just prolonged it.
Yeah. After Pilate washed his hands and declared himself innocent of Jesus' blood,
Yeah,
the Jewish the
Maryland
Jewish
says
crowd answered
deterrence.
him.
That's what I was thinking of. A deterrent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The, okay. After Pilate washed his hands and declares himself innocent of Jesus' blood, the Jewish crowd answered him, "His blood be on us and our children." Now, was it said? I don't know. It is an essay regarding anti-Semitism. Biblical scholar Amy Levine argues that this passage has caused more Jewish suffering throughout history than any other sentences or in the New Testament.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you
I can see that.
and you can't even prove that it actually happened.
That's what I'm saying. Did they say that? Why would they even say that? That the blood would be on themselves?
Well, yeah, not number one. That's a ridiculous statement for any Jew to make. The second of all is that there is no historical record of these things that supposedly happened, and the Romans were pretty good at keeping records.
Yeah, but that was not part of the Torah, of the written. It's part of the New Testament,
Well,
which was
yeah,
written by people. So I can't rely on it.
well, yeah, absolutely. You
Do you know who Saint Stephen was?
know. No, I don't.
Okay. Well, Saint Stephen was speaking before the synagogue council, just before his execution, and he said, you stiff-necked people, uncircumcised in heart and ears, you always resist the Holy Spirit, as your fathers did. So do you." Hmm.
Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
What?
Sounds familiar. Sounds like something you were just talking about a little while ago.
Uh, so, which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? And they killed those who announced beforehand the coming of the righteous one, whom you have not betrayed and murdered, who you have received the law as delivered by angels and did not keep it. Some of these sentences that were written, and this is why I said I don't believe in the New Testament, is that it just, there is no proof if it was ever said. So how can you believe in it? How can you put your trust in what was written?
Well, even if you look from one book to the other, it contradicts itself constantly. The facts don't follow from one writer to another. So I mean, if this is if if this was supposed to be so, why is there so much error in there?
I know.
And of course, the church's whole position is as well. Well, you just have to believe. Well, that's antithetical to Judaism. We don't take anything at face value.
All right.
We question everybody.
I told you the joke about the Pope in the Bible.
I don't recall it right offhand.
The Pope calls his emissary and he says, The last time the Bible was rewritten was 300 years ago. He says, look at it, it's in shambles. Find me the 10 best scribes in Italy and bring them to me. I want them to rewrite the Bible. Anyway, so his emissary finds the 10 scribes. He tells them, take them downstairs, lock them in the room, give them food, drinks as much as they want. I want them to rewrite. They have 1 month to do it. Anyways, the month goes by. Pope sends the emissary. He opens up the room, which was sealed, and he finds these 10 scribes. They have ripped their clothes. They haven't eaten. They haven't drank. We want to see the Pope. So, of course, they go up to the Pope, and the Pope says, what's wrong? He says, you have no idea, Your Honor, what happened 300 years ago, the mistake those scribes made. He says, what do you mean? They were supposed to write to celebrate, and they wrote celebrate. That is a big mistake.
Yeah. I mean, so getting back to, anti-Semitism. Can we actually define a cause for it?
I've thought about it many times. Just from my experiences going to school, the non-Jewish kids had every right to beat me up, pull my pants, but if I did it to them, I would get beaten up by their parents. And just the verbal abuse, you this Jew and you that Jew, this Jew and that Jew. It plays tricks on your mind. It leaves a lasting impression. I have never been back to my country. I would like to go visit my grandparents' graves, but as far as to go back just to see my old country, I have no desire. I'd rather go to Israel. I have no desire to go there. It's
for those of you who don't know, Rabbi Ancel was brought up in the region of where Vlad Tepes had his castle, and Dracula.
That's why I don't show my face, because I may bite somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, you said you used to play in his castle when you were a kid.
I'm sorry?
You told me that you and your friends used to play in that castle when you were kids.
Well, the only time as children we used to see, we used to be able to get candies, or I remember the Wrigley's chewing gum, because we would get that piece and we would rip it into three, so we'd have it for 3 days. Is when people used to come from France, Canada, United States, from any country, and they used to ask us, "Can you take us to the Castle of Dracula, which was the castle of Vlad Tepes?" We used to play hide and seek there because there was only 4 huge walls, all grass. You had to watch out for vipers, but there was nothing there. But since they were not allowed to give out foreign currency in a communist country, they used to bring us a load of candies, which we preferred to, because we couldn't use the foreign currencies.
Mm-hmm.
We preferred to get the candies and the chewing gum and a piece of chocolate, which was like a piece of gold. There was nothing. We were lucky that the rabbi in town was also a shofet.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we used to grow our own chickens, and we used to jump and catch one for Friday. We used to take it to the shofet, and he would cut the chicken, and at least we would have some chicken stew for Shabbos, for Yom Tov. But otherwise, bread, Hashem forgive me, because the bread was made from the husks. It was not made from the grain.
Mm.
And when you baked it, you couldn't break the bread over your knees. That's why we used to watch the non-Jews, the way they used to soak the bread. They used to use the pork fat, and they used to heat it over a fire, and used to let the drippings over the bread so they can actually eat it. We used to use My grandmother used to make her own butter, so we used to use butter, but it was tougher than nails to eat. But that
Yeah.
was communism.
Marilyn Chernak says that her maternal grandmother was from where you are. You
A
were from.
Romanian? Huh.
Yeah. And
Oh, she speaks Romanian? No.
oh no, she speaks French, which I constantly massacre. Kelsey Lynn says I have an oversimplified theory for anti-Semitism. If anybody is interested in it, yeah, I want to hear. I want to
Sure.
hear it. So yeah, I guess really anti-Semitism goes all the way back to Abraham.
So what is she saying?
I'm waiting for her to put it in, but in the
Oh,
meantime, I'm thinking that anti-Semitism actually kind of goes all the way back to Abraham, right?
uh,
And because he was
if I look at anti-Semitism from the beginning until now, the anti-Semitism that is now scares me more than ever.
really even more than that of the 1920s and 30s.
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because God forbid Iran ever gets a nuclear bomb, it will destroy Israel forever. There will be no Jews left. Whatever is left, it will be nothing. That's what scares me the most.
I can
It
tell
will
you.
never happen.
Yeah.
It will never happen because Israel has more nuclear weapons, so Iran will not exist because it's going to be. It can destroy the world because if a nuclear weapon ever hit an oil field,
Hmm.
that explosion will rip a piece out of the earth and will take us out of the axis, and that would be the end of the world. So talk is cheap, but I don't think they will ever start anything. They'll throw a few rockets, but I'm more worried about Hezbollah than Iran.
Yeah. Well, I don't think if Iran ever was foolish enough to launch a nuclear weapon, I'm pretty sure that it would never leave the region of Iran before it actually exploded.
It won't happen. And I'm going to say something that, and I know Hezbollah has a lot of those rockets, and they can do a lot of damage. If push comes to shove, they'll throw a small nuclear weapon, and they'll finish them off once not forever. The sad part about it is the Iranian people don't want war.
No.
It's the mullahs and the Khomeinis that are, and I don't ever believe that even Khomeini ever read the Quran because if you read it and the way they preach it, I mean, there's mullahs living in the United States that are saying that the world is still flat.
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
mean, the prior to the Khomeini actually coming back to Iran, I mean, that was Iranian people used to vacation in Israel, and people in Israel used to vacation in Iran.
I was in Iran during the Shah time, the Shah, Pahlavi. Iran, in these, Iran was beautiful, the capital,
Hmm.
but Beirut was the rose of the Middle East. If people believe that Paris was beautiful, Beirut was 10 times as beautiful. Take a
Really?
look at it now.
Yeah.
There is nothing. And all the Christians that live in the south of the country, which is close to the Israeli border, they're protected by the Jews, by the Israelis, not by because Hezbollah will kill them
Yeah.
because Hezbollah is supported by Iran. Strange, strange area. Just a few people who said things that created all these wars. Yasser Arafat, Imad Shemo, all these.
Yeah, we were actually talking about him before the show that he wasn't well. Actually, Palestinians don't exist, but
He was born in
he
Egypt.
he was Egyptian.
Yeah.
He got thrown out of Egypt. He went to Lebanon. He was creating trouble in Lebanon, and they threw him out of there and sent him up to the Gaza region. Let me ask you something about that. I had been told many years ago that uh, that Gaza, that strip, that used to be Philistia,
Correct.
right?
But when
That that land is actually cursed, and that's why nobody wants it.
correct. The other thing is when Arafat was thrown out of Lebanon, he ended up in Jordan. And
Yeah,
then there is a book called Black September.
right.
The old man, the previous, his father, the king that's now his father, the old man,
Mm-hmm.
he was afraid of, well, they call themselves Palestinian. He was afraid of them because it's easy to kill a king there because there's always war there. This is when the bridge between Israel and Jordan was built. He gave them, he says, you either leave Jordan or I'll kill every one of you. He killed 20,000 in 1 week.
Yeah,
That's why the Allenby Bridge was built between Israel and Jordan. And they left. So where did they end up? They ended up in Gaza. Nobody wants it. It's a cursed land.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, uh, King Hussein of Jordan, the previous king. Actually, he was. I mean, he didn't take
No,
any guff from Arafat. I mean, he was basically the only one out there that could actually tell Arafat to knock it off, and he would listen to him.
no, no. So that's he. Although he gave them a choice, and they took the easy way out. They're basically lazy people. They don't want to do anything. You look. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Abbas's house.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes the Queen's Palace look like there was nothing.
right. Yeah,
But Biden has decided to restart the payments of $200 million to the Palestinians.
yeah, yeah.
I really love that man.
Oh man.
I don't like to curse, but
Nah. Oh,
so what does she say?
let's see. What did she say? Nimrod. Oh, let's see. Let me go back here in the chat. Go back to the time of Nimrod and Abraham. Nimrod tried to battle against Hashem. Jews are in covenant with Hashem. The testament that Hashem exists is an example is an existence of Jews. Like I said, it's oversimplified. I'm not really quite sure what I've come to this conclusion. Okay, wherever there is great good, there has to be great evil. Has to be, because the
That is
universe has to
all.
remain in balance.
Yeah.
So if the Jews represent great good, then there has to be great evil has to exist.
A lot of it, I believe, I can say discrimination. A lot of it has to do, I can say jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, even during Egyptian times, Greek times, the Jews. What were they? They were merchants. They
Yeah.
would lend money. They would make money. The Jews were the doctors. Even why there's jealousy now. And so I tell people, if you are a Christian, no one is stopping you from becoming a lawyer or becoming a doctor. But there is that great jealousy because they they see that the Jews have the wealth, the Jews this, the Jews this, and that causes a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of jealousy.
Yeah. I've been reading Harry Kemmelman's books. You know, on Monday the rabbi did this, on Tuesday the rabbi did that. Are you familiar with those books?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm reading on was it on Thursday the rabbi walked out, and there was a section in there. Maybe I'll bring it in after we do the break, because there's a thing in there where
Okay.
these non-Jews, these goyishers, are sitting around and discussing anti-Semitism and what causes anti-Semitism. I thought it was really interesting the way he wrote this conversation.
Okay. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break here in a few minutes, and then
Okay.
I'll go grab the book, and we'll see what
Yeah.
Harry Kimmelman does. Yeah, if
There's,
you have not read those books, they are
they're
yeah,
very good books.
they are very good books. They're very similar to, I would say, very similar to the Perry Mason books,
Yeah.
except here the main character is a rabbi and instead of being a lawyer, and but I've really been enjoying them, and they I mean they're not older than me, because I mean they did come out in the late '60s, early '70s, but they are really good. They hold up well.
Listen, there's also grades of anti-Semitism. Look, I live in the Dominican Republic. I don't know if the listeners know the history of the Jews of the Dominicans, the 1,200 Jews that were allowed by Trujillo, who was a dictator, because those 1,200 Jews that were on the ship were not allowed entry into the United States, and Trujillo took them in. But he also saw how they work, their knowledge. They right away built a synagogue. They built homes. They built this. So Trujillo gave them thousands upon thousands of acres because when you're a dictator, you own the island.
Yeah,
And they did very, very, very well. So here's a dictator who is a Catholic, but yet he wrote in the Constitution of the Dominican Republic that Jews are protected by law. As I told you, if you're an Israeli that comes to the Dominican Republic and you show an Israeli passport, you don't have to pay the $20 entry fees. That's how much the Jews are respected because he saw what Jews can do. And this is the way the Dominican people learn from them. I mean, if
yeah,
anybody comes to Dominican and sees where some of the leftover Jews live, I would say the cheapest home would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $5 million.
yeah.
The president of the synagogue here, that was built in 1942, died 3 years ago. He had 5 children, so he had a big, huge lot facing the ocean. He built 5 homes. His estate right now is for sale if you want to buy it for $50 million.
No. Well, I mean, the was a president.
He was president of the synagogue.
Oh, no. I meant the head of the Dominican
Trujillo,
Republic.
Trujillo was a dictator. He wasn't
Okay,
a
so
president. He was
even
a dictator.
as a dictator, okay, just like Paro was a dictator.
Yep.
Okay, even Paro understood that if I allow the Jews come in, a blessing is going to come into the land because of them. And the same reason why the Jews were treated well until the Hyksos actually came into Egypt, was because they understood that blessing comes into the land because of when the righteous man comes into the land, blessing comes into the land. Obviously, the dictator in the Dominican Republic also understood that. He didn't
But
have
here's the
to.
other
He
thing.
didn't have to like Jews. He just had to
No,
understand that if I allow them to come in, the land's going to be blessed because of it.
here's the other thing. Hitler also approached Trujillo, and he told him, he says, "Will you accept 1,000,000 Jews?" And Trujillo says, "I don't have people. Please send them." So Hitler sent 2 battalions of Germans, and they started to build barracks. But Trujillo's Secret Service found out that that was not Hitler's intention, because they were building another camp to exterminate the Jews.
Mm.
So Trujillo went to the general who was in charge, and he says, "Look, you have 72 hours to get your bodies out of here. If I find any one of you here, I will order your execution." So in the Constitution, he wrote in that no German can own land, can own a house, can own an apartment, can own a condo, can own a business until about 12 years ago when another president came in and he changed the law. And now there's a lot of Germans.
Uh-huh.
They can own land and they can buy businesses. But until then, for many, many years, you could come as a visitor, but you had no rights as a German. So there's the opposite to what he did with the Jews. You know, the original cheese factory that the Jews built here in Sosua, in the Dominican Republic, still works. Still makes cheese. It's not kosher. Still makes cheese.
Yeah.
Still makes butter and yogurts and this, but it's not. They're not kosher because it's not owned by the Jews.
Well, we're at our halfway point, so if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and mute you.
Okay.
And we are going to take our break. And Donald, I see you did finally make it. I was kind of wondering if this was if the daylight saving time was going to kind of goof people up, but it looks like most of you made it around. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our break, and we will return in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
Scream. They can
Okay,
talk,
we are back.
but it's like talking for a wall.
Yeah,
Nothing. They're children. I understand, but I don't have to live with a headache.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
But the children,
we're back.
That's what they can do. So they'll teach their children, and that goes on. You know.
So we're back now, and as promised, and we're continuing on with our discussion of, well, it starts out as anti-Semitism, then we kind of got a little sidetracked. Now we're kind of back to it. So I was saying before the break that I was reading this book. Thursday, the Rabbi walked out by Harry Kimmelman, and like I said, I encourage you, if you enjoy mysteries, they're a good series of books. I really enjoy it. But I wanted to talk about this in the one that I'm reading now. This whole conversation that goes on about anti-Semitism. And it all starts out because this guy moves into town. His name is Siegel, not Bugsy, but he moves into town, and there's this social club. Anyway, they're talking about this guy, and they start getting onto this whole thing about anti-Semitism. So let me read this, just a little bit of it. It says, I'll just pick it up kind of in the middle of the whole thing. Is that sure, said Burkhart scornfully, everybody denies being anti-Semitic, but I don't, said Ellsworth Jordan. You don't? The young man stared at him. You mean you are anti-Semitic? Certainly. All of us are. You and you are too, Burkhart. You're ashamed to admit it because you have a lot of crackpot liberal ideas about how only the ignorant are prejudiced. But you are just the same, having one as a business partner or as a family physician whom you think the world of, or as a best friend proves nothing. Or rather, to a Jew, it proves you are an anti-Semite. That's kind of an inside joke among them. Anytime anyone says his best friends are Jews, they know he is an anti-Semite talking. He smiled broadly. I know because at one time some of my best friends were Jewish. But you just said, Don Burkhout said, nonplussed. Oh, I can admit it because I know why we are anti-Semitic. You do? Why? Because they make us feel uncomfortable. Why should they make us feel uncomfortable? Because they're better than we are, said Jordan simply. They stared at him. Hogwash. How do you know they? How do you mean better? Demanded Mirgrim. Morally, ethically, said Jordan. I guess they're just more civilized than we are. That's what makes us feel uncomfortable, and that's why we dislike them. He laughed aloud, and the joke is that the buggers don't have any idea why they're disliked, not a clue. They just don't understand the psychology of it. They point out that they're good and loyal citizens with a low divorce rate, a low crime rate, and they're sober and industrious and ambitious. They're active in all kinds of worthwhile movements and reforms and are usually on the side of the underdog. But that doesn't get you liked. Quite on the contrary, they were the first to help blacks, for instance, and as a result, they are the ones that the blacks resent the most. But they help the blacks because they're both minority peoples, Megrin pointed out. But you take in Israel, where they are the majority, they're making the same mistake, said Jordan promptly. They set up a 2-bit country on a 2x4 piece of land, and the first thing they do is to take all their kinfolk in from the Arab countries, the old and the sick, and not a dime among the lot of them. And they feed them with what they themselves haven't got, when they themselves haven't got a pot to pee in. And there were almost as many of these refugees in the total population of the country at the time. And it just kind of goes on and on from there. But I thought it was a very interesting conversation there that these Goyishers were having about anti-Semitism. That it's the well, some of my best friends are Jews, kind of thing.
So now I'm going to switch from Roman and Greeks. We're going to switch over to the Muslim side.
Yes.
The Quran, which is the holy book of Muslims, contains many. I've read the whole Quran myself, the English translation. Contains a lot of verses that can be interpreted as negative views of some Jews. After the Islamic prophet Muhammad moved to Medina in 622 CE, he made peace treaties with the Jewish tribes of Arabia and other tribes. However, the relationship between the followers of the new religion and the Jews of Medina later became very bitter. At this point, the Quran instructs Muhammad to change direction of prayer from Jerusalem to Mecca. And from this point on, the tone of the verses of the Quran became increasingly hostile towards Jewry.
Yeah.
In 627 CE, Jewish tribe Banu, it's hard to pronounce it, Qurayaza of Medina, violated a treaty with Muhammad by his allying with the attacking tribes. Subsequently, the tribe was changed and it was charged with treason and besieged by the Muslims, commanded by Muhammad himself. The Banu Qurayza were forced to surrender and the men were beheaded, while the women and children were taken captive and enslaved. Several scholars have challenged the veracity of the incident, arguing that it was exaggerated or invented. Later, several conflicts arose between the Jews of Arabia and Muhammad and his followers. The most notable, which was Khaybar, in which many Jews were killed and their properties were seized and distributed among the Muslims. So there's another part of the past where also the Muslims had negative views about the Jews. When Christianity now became the state religion of Rome in the 4th century, Jews became the object of religious intolerance and political oppression. Christian literature began to display extreme hostility toward Jews, which occasionally resulted in attacks and the burning of synagogues. This hostility was reflected in the edicts both of church councils and the state laws. In the early 4th century, intermarriage between unconverted Jews and Christians was prohibited under the provision of the Synod of Elvira. The Council of Antioch, which was in 341, prohibited Christians from celebrating Passover with the Jews, while the Council of Laodicea forbade Christians from keeping the Jewish Sabbath. The Roman Emperor Constantine I instituted several laws concerning the Jews. They were forbidden to own Christian slaves or to circumcise their slaves. The conversion of Christians to Judaism was outlawed. Religious services were regulated, congregations restricted, but Jews were allowed to enter Jerusalem on Tisha B'Av, the anniversary of the destruction of the temple. Kind of strange. Discrimination became worse in the 5th century. The edicts of the Codex Theodosianus in 438 barred Jews from the civil service, the army, and the legal profession. The Jewish patriarchate was abolished and the scope of Jewish courts was restricted. Synagogues were confiscated and all synagogues could be repaired only if they were in danger of collapse. Synagogues fell into ruin and were converted into churches. Synagogues were destroyed in Cortona in 350, in Rome 388 and 500, and then it just goes on to many synagogues, Raqqa, Minorca, Daphne, which was near Antioch, Genoa, Ravenna. Other synagogues were confiscated in Urfa in 411, several in Judea between 419 and 422, Constantinople in 422 and 569, in Antioch in 423, and so goes on. Palermo was in 590, Cagliari also in 590. Deicide is the killing of a god. In the context of Christianity, deicide refers to the responsibility for the death of Jesus. The accusation of the Jews and deicide has been the most powerful war for anti-Semitism by Christians. The earliest recorded instance of accusation of deicide against the Jewish people as a whole, that they were collectively responsible for the death of Jesus, occurs in a sermon of 167 CE attributed to Melito of Sardis, entitled Peri Pascha, on the Passover. This text blames the Jews for allowing King Herod and Caiaphas to execute Jesus. Melito does not attribute particular blame to Pontius Pilate, mentioning only that Pilate washed his hands of guilt. The sermon was written in Greek, but may have been an appeal to Rome to spare Christians at the time when Christians were widely persecuted. The Latin word deicida, slayer of God, from which the word deicide is derived, was used in the 4th century by Peter Christologos in his sermon number 172. Though not part of the Roman Catholic dogma, many Christians, including members of the clergy, once held the Jews to be collectively responsible for the killing of Jesus. According to this interpretation, both the Jews present at Jesus' death and the Jewish people collectively and for all time had committed the sin of deicide, or God killing, which makes no sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And the term is an oxymoron in itself.
The other thing is somebody has to prove to me if he ever existed, because I have many problems, and maybe that's not something that we should discuss at one time. I don't think we should get dwelled into it because it can cause anti-Semitism to us.
Right.
But there is no proof he existed, because he appeared at the age of 26. So from the minute he was born at the age of 26, there's no record. There's no record in the Torah that he existed.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing in the Talmud about it. There's nothing in the writings of Josephus about him.
Yeah. There was also discussion by a few rabbis going back a few years ago. Who were the first 6 popes?
Who were the first 6?
Popes.
Well, let's see. Peter would have been the first. I don't know after that.
Yes, Peter, Paul, these guys. Well, who were they? Apparently, they were Jews, no?
Supposedly.
Supposedly. So, but supposedly, that's Jews. They were married. So when Christianity moved to Rome, all of a sudden they said that the clergy are not allowed to get married. Why?
That's a good question. Why?
I had one priest explain to me, but he said, please don't quote me. He's on God. He told me like this. He says, can you imagine the Pope being married, and he travels extensively, and he's basically not allowed home at his residence, and the wife comes to him and he says, listen, honey, we were married for such a long time, but you have no time to pay attention to me. I want a divorce. But I also want half the church, which is not going to happen. So I would guess how many hundreds of thousands of priests are, and if they would ever get divorced, they would have to give up half the church.
Yeah.
There would be no church left, and since the church is the Catholic Church is the richest corporation in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody really knows what's in the catacombs. Probably billions and billions of dollars that belong to a lot of the Jews, because it ended up, because don't forget, the Pope at the time of the Holocaust was a Nazi lover.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That's yeah, that's interesting, because yeah, I mean that yeah, this whole thing about being celibate. I mean, what's the point? Isn't that a direct violation of what God told us?
Yeah, but then this is where you have all these people about being gay and all these priests attacking children. This is where it becomes a disease.
Well, you had many popes that actually weren't married, but I mean they were philanderers. They had children. You know, some of them had fairly big families. I mean, you know, look at the Borgias.
It is very hard for me to believe that a lot of the cardinals and all this that they are celibate. I don't think so. Look how many cardinals were caught with children and with married women,
Yeah,
and their laws just don't make sense because the only person that can judge for according to us in Judaism is God.
right.
Why does a priest have the right for you to call you to confess?
Yeah,
We go to Yom Kippur and we confess ourselves our own sins to God. So it's I many questions unanswered. Okay, so let's continue. So there was continuing hostility to Judaism from the late Roman period into medieval times. During the Middle Ages in Europe, there was a full-scale persecution of Jews in many places, with labels, expulsions, forced conversions, and killings. In the 12th century, there were Christians who believed that some or all, possibly all, of the Jews possessed magical powers and had gained these powers from making a pact with the devil.
oh yeah, that's still today.
Yeah, but the Judenstyle images began to appear in Germany. I know of only one country that practices voodoo, and that's the country next door to me, which is Haiti.
Oh, yeah,
There was a discussion between me and a couple other rabbis and actually a priest, and we were just saying there are many hurricanes that bypass the Dominican, sometimes on the north, but most of them come to the south. From recorded times when hurricanes bypass the south of the Dominican, as soon as it gets to the border of Haiti, it makes that right turn and it hits Haiti every single time. And one of the explanations of the priest was that because they practice voodoo, don't believe in God, that's the punishment. So, that's true. So, but that's the only country I know that practices voodoo.
yeah, yeah. It's well, I mean, does voodoo actually originate in Haiti, or does that originate from Africa?
It originated from Africa
Yeah.
and then went to Haiti. Yeah, here in the Dominican, you figure it would be, it would rub off on them, but no voodoo practice here.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at if you go to Google and look at the satellite image of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, I mean, you can almost draw a border, you know, just from looking at the land.
Well, what happened when Haiti had, I forgot his name, the dictator. Haiti and the Dominican were the two richest country in caoba, which is what's the name of the wood? It's the brown wood, expensive wood, mahogany.
Oh, mahogany. Yeah, okay.
So what the dictator in Haiti did, he cut down every single tree because if you look at the map,
Mm-hmm.
Haiti looks like Africa, the desert, because there's no trees.
Right.
This is why when a hurricane hits, there's mudslides and it just wipes out towns. There's thousands. The Dominican has you cannot cut down a mahogany tree. It started 3 years ago. For another 15 years.
Oh.
If you look at the Dominican, it's beautiful and green.
Yeah.
But all the furniture, the synagogue here in Sosua, the floor, the Oren Kodesh, the menorah is made out of the same wood. It looks like it was made yesterday.
Uh-huh.
It's beautiful. The furniture, my doors, everything else is made out of gold, mahogany.
Haiti, the dictator in Haiti, wasn't that the guy who had the Tantan Makut?
Yeah,
Okay, that's why. Okay. Yeah, his secret police that weren't so secret.
yeah. So now we're going to go over to part of Europe, which was the Visigoth Kingdom of Spain, issued a series of anti-Jews edicts already in the 7th century.
Mm-hmm.
Persecution of Jews in Europe reached a climax during the Crusades. Anti-Jewish rhetoric such as the gold of love began to appear and affect public consciousness. At the time of the First Crusade in 1096, a German crusade destroyed flourishing Jewish communities on the Rhine and the Danube. The Second Crusade, which was in 1147, the Jews in France were victims of frequent killings and atrocities. Following the coronation of Richard I Lionhearted in 1189, Jews were attacked in London. When King Richard left to join the Third Crusade in 1190, anti-Jewish riots broke out again in York and throughout England. In the first large-scale persecution in Germany after the First Crusade, 100 Jews were killed in the Rheinfeld Nights in 1298. The Jews were also subjected to attacks during the Shepherds Crusade in 1251 and 1320. In 1330, the Jews were assaulted by army leader led by Arnold von Hussingen, starting in 1336 in Franconia, and subsequently by John Zimberlin in 1338 1339 in Alsace, who attacked more than 100 Jewish communities. Following these crusades, Jews were subject to expulsions, including in 1290 the banishing of all English Jews. In 1396, 100 Jews were expelled from France, and in 1421, thousands were expelled from Austria. Many of those Jews expelled fled to Poland, unfortunately, and then when Nazism came in, most of them died in the camps.
Yeah. I mean, fled to actually, it's actually quite a large area. They went to Italy. They went to the Pale, White Russia, Hungary, Poland.
Yeah, Romania.
Romania. Yeah.
In my town, believe it or not, there were 2,000. 300 came back. And my mother went there with her sister and 5 brothers and her parents. And all of them survived.
Wow.
My mother she could make me a winter sweater probably in about 2 hours. It was that good. And the German soldiers, because it was cold in Auschwitz, asked them for socks and sweaters. And she told them, you leave my family alone and I'll knit you 24/7. That's what she did.
Mm.
But when she came back to Romania and they saw that the whole family came back, the Jewish people, and I could understand.
Nope, sounds like we lost the rabbi. Hopefully they'll pop back in. So, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see if he pops back. Yeah, I don't want to step on anything that he might talk about. Some of the let's go back to what he was talking about, the Muslims and stuff like that, and that the Mecca, Medina, were actually large Jewish populations and stuff like that. And it said that Muhammad actually had. It's interesting that Muhammad and Martin Luther actually, and the rabbi has has departed. Let's see if he can call back in. Anyway, that Muhammad and Martin Luther kind of follow the same kind of path. They're very, very congenial towards the Jews when they think that they can convert the Jews to, in Martin Luther's case, Catholicism, in Muhammad's case, to Islam. And as soon as they find out that the Jews ain't having none of it, that their writings actually become very, very anti-Semitic. And again, we see this, when Martin Luther is very, very plain, and you can almost tell to the date when that actually happened. Let's see, how do I answer this? You're back.
No, I don't know what happened. It's that I lost your connection.
Yeah. I was just talking about, going back and stepping back and talking about Islam and Muhammad, and how Muhammad and Martin Luther almost kind of tread the same path when it comes to the Jews. I mean, they're very congenial towards the Jews when they think that they can convert the Jews to their thinking, like Martin Luther with trying to convert them to Catholicism, and Muhammad trying to convert them to Islam. And when they find out that the Jews just ain't having none of it, that all of a sudden their writings become very, very anti-Semitic.
Yeah, but in the Muslims, there are two sections of them. One is the Sunnis, and the other are
The Shiite.
Okay. Why are they fighting with each other?
Doesn't it have to do with the descent from Muhammad?
No, but one says, the Sunni says that our God is Muhammad. What did they say? Oh, no. His name is not Muhammad. His name is Allah.
Yeah.
His true name was Muhammad Allah. But they've been killing each other, brothers and sisters, brothers and brothers, parents. They've been killing each other because they disagree with their gods, which really makes no sense.
Well, that's humans, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I mean it's they said that the Quran, actually Muhammad was illiterate. Muhammad couldn't read, he couldn't write.
They also say he was a pedophile.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but they said that he actually, to write the Quran, he actually kidnapped Christian and Jewish scholars and made them write. He told them what to write, and then they wrote it up.
But there's so many discrepancies.
Oh yeah.
So many lies in the Quran.
I mean, if you were being forced to write something like that, wouldn't you kind of sneak in things just to say, hey, if you're buying this, I've got a bridge and I got some land in Florida to sell you.
Yeah, listen. The prime example, the Quran says that a woman must, and I agree with it because Judaism says the same thing. A woman must cover her private parts. I agree with it too. Where does the thing on the face come from? That has nothing. There's nothing written in the Quran that she must have a face. In fact, where it came from, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the tribes, the Muslims tribes, used to fight between each other because they didn't agree with each other.
Right.
So what did they do? They used to attack each other, and they would steal their women. So what did they do? The women covered their faces. So you rode on a horse and you saw a woman, you grabbed her, you put her on the horse, and you went home. But you didn't know whether you grabbed grandma or a 18-year-old. So they started to cover their faces. That's where it comes from. Nothing from the Quran. The Quran does not mention anything.
Well, yeah.
So there's a lot of things in the Quran
Well,
lot
it's
of
not. It's
people,
not just the Quran either, because you have the Hadith that go along with it.
yeah, a lot of people call because of the things that Muhammad or Allah or whatever says. They call the Quran the killing Bible.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I've read the Quran. I've read the Hadith, and I mean the Quran. I mean reads like a nightmare of a madman.
I mean the laws. I mean what? I mean the prayers that you have to do and this that. It's scary. I don't put any judgment on the book or any Muslim if they want to believe in the Quran. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But it's not part of me because it just doesn't make sense. There's so many untruths. It's the same thing with the New Testament. I'm sorry, but I totally 100% disagree because somebody dreamt and he wrote part of the Bible. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. That's always been Oh, they got it wrong. This is the way it's supposed to be. Well, how do you know that? Well, I had a dream. Okay. Well, I had a dream about a snake rolling a donut. What does that mean? You know?
Sometimes and I have a lot of friends, and I'm going to admit it because it is what it is. I have a lot of friends who happen to be, I wouldn't say friends, acquaintances who truly are Jews for Jesus. And
Mm,
I have the most fierce arguments with them. But I am not allowed to judge them, and I'll just make my comments, and they will judge me. I am a bad rabbi.
yeah.
So, so I am Semitic because I don't believe in Jesus. I said, Jesus is not my God. You know,
Yeah.
you have two gods. I have only one God. I have Hashem, and I'm satisfied.
Well, they actually have three.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, what makes them any different than the Greeks and the Romans? I mean, and their pantheon, or even the Norsemen.
Well, we
With
go back to the Pharaoh times. They had many
yeah,
gods.
that's true. Yeah,
You
and
know.
God took vengeance on every one of them.
But you know what? And I always pray for that. Let us Jews alone. Let us follow our own religion. You do what you want to do with your religion. Let there be peace. But it's not going to have, it scares me what's happening now in the United States. I told you, Aryel, I lived there for 22 years.
All right.
I love the United States pieces to pieces. I love that country for what this bite, and I'm going to mention his name, and I don't wish him anything bad, but what he's doing to your country, to my country, to your country, I cannot believe what's going on the border. Those poor children, I
Yeah.
can't get it. And they blame Trump. What's going on? There's, I don't know. It pains me to talk about it because, like I said, I love the United States. I
Well, I
wasn't
mean,
born there,
we're gonna
but
we're
I
gonna
lived there.
we're gonna get into this a little more as well. I mean, this is not going to be just tonight that we're going to talk about this because there's way too much to cover. But I mean,
I know, and I still have basically more than half to go through of anti-Semitism. You said next week that we are not going to do a show, so
right.
maybe we'll continue 2 weeks from now and finish it because there's lots more to discuss.
Yeah, because we haven't even
And,
gotten into the 20th century yet.
yes, yeah, I'm going to go all the way to present times.
Yeah, I
But
think there's going to be some
I
people are
am
going to find
hoping,
some very interesting things, some very interesting facts out as we get more
yeah,
towards modern times.
but I truly believe that yesterday is dead and gone. Cannot bring it back. And what pains me more, the future of the United States, the future of the world, and most of all, the future of my country, which where my heart belongs to, which belongs to Israel.
Yeah.
That's what worries me the most.
So as Rabbi Ancel mentioned, we will not be meeting next week because I still have a lot to do for Passover, as I'm sure a lot of people out there also have. I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute, and then I'll come back with you after we get out of the show here.
Okay.
So let me. It's really nice to be able to have that kind of power. Did I not turn on your mic? I guess I didn't turn on your mic on the broadcast, but they were able to hear you on the microphone. So hang on. Okay, so as I said, because of Passover and everybody having to get things ready and stuff, we will not be having any classes next week. We will be having Shabbat services as usual. Friday night at 8 p.m. Kabbalat and Mariv Shabbat service, and then Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. Shachrit and Musaf. And until then, hopefully will be with us on this coming Wednesday for the continuation of the Torah study in depth. And we're going to tell that, like I said, I forgot to do this. I forgot to print them out before Shabbat. Which is usually when we do Chachodesh, we tell the 3 stories for Parnasa for Pesach. We will do that when we start our show on Wednesday, and then we'll get back into the Torah study. So until then, everyone, Laila Tov.